Today I'm reviewing some spicy new cards coming out of Cybernetic Horizon, and all you have to do is stay tuned. To the summer of love. What's up everybody, it's Rexbook here, and today I'm going to be going over some more cards coming out of Cybernetic Horizon, including a new Cyberse Ritual monster. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So to start, we have SIMM Dublas. This is, I think it has another name. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! The Wikia gave it the name SIMM Tablas or something like that, which might make more sense. I don't know. Either way, both the names sound pretty weird. The only part that makes sense is the SIMM for the SIMM card. But anyways, let's read this monster's effect. It's a level 5 dark with 1800 defense, no attack. Decent card because of the fact it's alright already, just because of the fact that it's a dark. That means it has synergy with Allure of Darkness. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think it's just a Cyberse type, so obviously it has a lot of synergy with those cards, as that's the deck that you're supposed to run this in. Anyway, so its effect is that you can reveal this card from your hand and then target a level 4 Cyberse monster in your graveyard, special summon this card, and add that to a linked monster, to like one of the linked zones or whatever, and then return the monster you targeted in the graveyard to your hand. So I can see this being useful with, right now, I think that the only really valuable card that you'd be able to add back to your hand off of this would be Balancer Lord, because I think it's the only, like, really good level 4 Cyberse. I could be wrong about that, but I'm sure that there's going to be more really good and level 4 Cyberse coming out in the future, so I could definitely see this card getting some play. Unfortunately, though, it is a hard once per turn. Otherwise, it could be a lot better, but that might get a little broken. So yeah, moving on, we have Cluster Congester. This is kind of a weird card. It's a level 7 light with 1000 attack and 2200 defense. I guess it's kind of like the opposite of Dual Assembleworm or Assembloom. I forget what the TCG named it. It's kind of like the light version of that, I guess. It has very strange effects. So its first effect is a hard once per turn, and it is that if it's summoned while you do not control a link monster, you can special summon a Congester token. This is really beneficial, because that means that if you weren't you can set up your board to the point where you have 3 monsters, and then if you can find a way to get Cluster Congester out, then you'd have a full board of 5, and then you could start link spamming and really go off with your plays there. And sort of, like, the only problem is that it's a level 7, so how are you going to summon it? Well, right now, I do believe the only real synergy it has is with Widget Kid, which is a card coming out of the Starter Deck 2018, which allows you to special summon a Cyberse from your hand whenever Widget Kid is summoned. So that means that if you can get Widget Kid out and you have this guy in your hand, then you're going to be set pretty much for that turn, getting a link monster. And then it has another effect which I think will be even more useful and might see some competitive play, where once per turn during the battle step, if a link monster you control was attacked, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and that link monster special summon a number of Congester tokens up to the number of link monsters your opponent controls. So when Troy Mares come out and those start seeing, because I'm pretty sure Troy Mares are going to get busted open pretty quick, since they're a whole archetype based around extra linking your opponent, and that being pretty much their win condition. So what I like about this is that if there's ever a deck that becomes too aggressive with its links, Cluster Congester can become an option against that, because you'd be able to, as long as you have a link monster as well, so if you can get one out before they extra link you, or they extra link you using one that points towards you, you'd be able to get out a link monster and then just sort of let it die using Cluster Congester, and then fill up your board so that you have plenty of tokens to work with, or even if they don't extra link you, it's probably even more beneficial, because then they're probably going to have like maybe three or four is probably going to be about the average as to what you get, but it sets you up for next turn to go off, which is really nice. Alright, next up we have Cyberse Witch, and this is a link to having both of its arrows point towards you. 800 attack, which isn't that decent, but it is a dark, and dark obviously is very good in Yu-Gi-Oh! So both of its effects are hard ones per turn, and its first effect is that if a monster is special summoned to your zone this card points to, you can banish a spell from your graveyard to add a Cyberse Ritual monster and one Cynet Ritual from your deck to your hand. So that immediately makes me wonder, are Cyberse going to get even more ritual support? Because it doesn't just specify Cyberse Magician, but instead specifies any Cyberse Ritual monster. So it's really cool now that we're getting Link monsters that now are supporting ritual archetypes, and I hope we get more of that in the future. And I know that the Ritual Beast got a Link monster, but I didn't really count it because it was archetypical, not generic like this is. And then during your main phase, if you activated this card's first effect during this turn, you can target a level 4 lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So this is in much better Link. This is actually a really good Link monster. So the 800 attack is of course a downer, but you can switch this out with a Decode Talker as soon as you're done with activating both of its effects, and then you're pretty much good to go. So I definitely think that if you plan on running the Cyberse Rituals, this is going to be an essential to the deck because its effects are actually really good. And even the only thing is that it requires you to run the rituals in order to use this card properly. Otherwise, you're just having a wasted Link 2. But still, it is a decent card either way, and I think it just requires the 2 Cyberse monsters to summon it. Then we have Cynet Ritual. This is obviously the ritual spell for any Cyberse Ritual monster. And then its first effect is that you can ritual summon a Cyberse Ritual monster from your hand. Just the generic ritual. And then during your main phase, except during the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and one ritual monster from your graveyard to special summon 2 Cynet tokens in defense position. So this is crazy because this is honestly one of the best ritual cards we've ever seen because of the fact that it allows you to extend your ritual plays and your Link plays at the same time, which is just genius. Like having all of that in one card, for clearly that's the direction that this typing is going to be, ritual and Link focused. So it's great that the ritual spell supports both of the types main boss monsters now. So I really like that in that card. Alright, and last but not least, we have the Cyberse Magician, the new ritual monster that Cyberse are getting. And it has 4 effects, and you ritual summon it using Cynet Ritual. So its first effect is that have all damage you would take. That means burn damage, battle damage, anything. So that's immediately really good because something that could OTK you now takes 2 turns to kill you. So it's going to limit down how much your opponent can actually hurt you in a single turn and make playing cards like Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike more comfortable because of the fact that you know that your opponent won't be able to do as much to you. And then if you would control a Link monster, your opponent can't target other monsters for an attack or for card effects, except for this one. So that's really good as well, because that means that if you have monsters that you just need to protect because they can't protect themselves, this is a good way to do it. Whereas it might end up being sacrificial, it could be beneficial just because you'd be protecting your main monster if this isn't your main monster. Also, when your opponent controls a Link monster, you gain 1,000 attack during damage calculation only. So that's good for if you were to battle against a Saryuya, because then they'd be taking around the same. They don't be taking like 700 damage. So this is good because a lot of decks rely on, like a lot of spammy decks rely on using Link monsters to attack. So This makes it so that any of those more BS sort of gimmicky link decks aren't going to be able to compete as well against you. And then this final card is both really good and really bad. I personally really like it. But if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add one Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. The only thing that I think could have made it better is if it was destroyed by an opponent's card by battle or card effect. That would have made this extremely busted because it's a homing beacon for attacks and card effects, but this makes it so that all your opponent has to do is run it over, and this means that if, say, dinosaurs were to take over, this card would just be unplayable, because since it is a ritual monster, it can be put in defense, and their main boss monster is 3,500, so it's just not looking like a good situation for that. But if you're in a format where destruction effects are the main thing, say this would have been really good in zoos, that's when it would come in handy. So, anyways, that's all I have for this deck profile, or not this deck profile, for these card reviews. But overall, I think these are actually some really solid cards, especially these last three. I could see them eventually getting some competitive play, their spot in the stage light or whatever, their spot in the spotlight eventually, if you know what I mean. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, hope to see you next time, and as always, have a roaring good day.